Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. My name is Abdullah Muslim, and this is a program that's designed to enlighten those who watch it about Islam, about the statements, the things that are said about Muslims and their untruths, and to, offset the possibility of those who are interested in improving their lives and finding salvation through good deeds, and who are looking forward, or who understand, I should say, that death is the inevitable end of us all. And what happens when we pass away from here is going to be determined by the good deeds that we've done while we were here, and or the bad deeds that we've done. Islam, from my perspective, from what I understand and from what I read in the Quran, has been designed by Almighty Allah to get us into the final phase of existence, the life to come, and to get us into the good part of it, to get us into the part that has the rewards, not the part that has the punishment. And He has revealed Islam as the way to do that. We, human beings, have tried some of every type of idea and philosophy and, well, I guess you could say misunderstanding for the most part, because our history is filled with murder, death, torture, rape, lies, etc., that has caused the human being to wreak catastrophe and havoc into our daily existence throughout history, throughout the history of man. It's filled with warfare, and it will be filled with warfare. However, the Quran was revealed so that we can read it, and in passing through this life, be a little less warlike and a little bit more peaceful, and do a lot more good for our fellow human beings, be they Muslim or not. Today we have our brother Safwan al-Hadi, and if you recall, the last time we were together, we spoke about magic. The word for magic in Islam, or in Arabic, is sihr, isn't it?
Sihr.
And he was speaking about some people whom he had met in upstate New York who were practicing what's referred to in the UK as Wicca, but what we refer to in the United States, and maybe in some other places, as witchcraft. And he was speaking about some of the experiences he had. And I don't know if you'll recall or not, but I did say to him that I've had similar experiences, and that maybe sometime in the future we can talk, and I can give my experiences with people who were involved in Satanism, who were openly practicing the worship of Satan. No, I was not one of them, but I did meet one of them, and maybe later on in this episode or a future episode I can relay that experience to you. So I'm going to turn the narrative of this particular program over to our brother Safwan, and we'll try to pick up the thread from where we left off last time. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Walaikum salam.
You know, the last time you spoke, you were talking about some people you met in upstate New York, and they're explaining the difference between Wicca, witchcraft, and some of the practices. And we had even spoken about people who were involved in human sacrifice, people who were involved in, what they call white magic,
Right.
and these different things. So maybe you want to expand on this a little bit more from your experience, because I know that you're not an expert in this, as I am not an expert in it. But we've experienced interaction with people who were involved in this particular lifestyle, who were not Muslims. And, you know, maybe we can shed a little light on our viewers and also show them how Islam can work to protect them from this.
Well, you mentioned white magic, black magic, all of it being magic, and it's from the tricks and of the practitioners of magic.
Okay.
That tricking you into thinking that there's a good and bad magic, like in, you know, we had the old film, The Wizard of Oz, about a wizard at the end of the day.
But you know what was interesting about that movie was that there was a lot of technology involved in that as well. Because you remember, he was hidden behind a screen, he's talking through a microphone. So, you know, so go ahead, brother.
All right, so he's talking through a microphone. But the thing is, they meet this so-called bad witch, the wicked witch of the West, while the good witch was the good witch of the East, right? She wore white, and the bad witch wore black. And but at the end of the day, what I think the goal was to get the people to start to have an affinity towards magic, especially the youth. And, you know, as it appealed to the youth, it was like a youthful program, even though it was a blockbuster hit in its day.
Each version of it, because there was a version made with mostly black actors also called The Wiz.
Which was a take on.
Yeah, take on that one, yeah.
It was of it.
Yeah, so maybe there's something to what you're saying about an attempt to subtly bring people into accepting these particular ideas and lifestyle, no matter what their race may be.
So since then, generations later, you have, in those days, especially during the times of The Wiz, you had cartoons, for example, where the cartoons had in it like little animals such as Tom and Jerry and the Wacky Racers and, you know, Grape Ape and the likes, you know, Jabberjaw.
It's your generation.
My generation from the 70s.
Tom and Jerry, I know, but the rest of them you mentioned.
Yeah, from the 70s. From the 70s. However, the generations, 3, 4 generations later, they're all demons. You know, Pokemon, Ben 10, you name it. You know, everything is a demon and a devil. You know, since then they had the Aladdin cartoon from Disney, let alone the one from way back. With
Aladdin and his wonderful lamp.
Yeah, and his wonderful lamp. You know, with the jinn, actually, jinn.
Now this has an Islamic theme, or not, excuse me. Yeah, I guess you could say an Islamic. They tried to give it an Islamic theme.
Well, the thing is, it took place, I believe, in India or some part over there in the East.
Now, I always thought it was Arabia.
Where it speaks about the Arabian Nights, right? But that particular thing with Aladdin.
Oh, it's part of the Arabian Nights.
Yeah, so they were speaking about, it was this jinn on the beach that came out of a lamp, all right, like a Persia. It was like Persia or something like that. But they would have you think it was actually like Arabia itself. But these were stories from the Arabian Nights, you know, long nights and whatever. And the jinn
and you know the history of that, right? It was, they said Shah Jahan, who was Indian, okay, had tried to, well, he used to, look how they paint us, even in this stuff. He would marry a woman, or he would have his way with her. I think they said he would marry her, spend the night with her, and then kill her the next day. Okay, I'm just thinking about this now. It didn't, you know, this was not planned. Okay, but and he met one who was clever, and she said, "I'll tell you a story every night if you let me live the next day," or something like that. And so this is how the Arabian Nights came about. Because all of that stuff involves some type of magic, now that I'm thinking about it.
There was a film that came out back in.
I don't want to focus just on
right,
that, but I'm
right,
sorry. Go ahead.
In the late '90s, and it depicted all of that.
Right.
But in this,
But we don't marry women, sleep with them one night, and then murder them the next day.
Definitely not from Islam.
Okay.
Definitely not from
but
Islam.
That's something that they were trying to present.
Right. They're definitely not from
Flying
Islam.
carpets.
Right.
SubhanAllah.
From the perverted practices of the people of those lands, where they had taken in and gone overboard with their spirituality and started to get into magic, right? You have in this particular film, you have the jinn, in which the word genie is really a single, as we mentioned before, a single jinn, which is jinni. That's the correct pronunciation, a single jinn. and you have the ifrit, big strong jinn, the big, a strong jinn. So anyway, these people, they use these beings that we can't see. They call on them. They use these pentagrams and hexagrams and whatever other grams that they use as portals to communicate with these jinns. And thereby causing themselves to commit shirk.
They say even the Star of David is tied up in that.
Well, David never had a star.
Yeah.
So.
But that's the name they give it to give it some validity.
Right. Even though they don't like David, the prophet Dawood. The people who say this don't even like the prophet Dawood to be a prophet. They call him a king, but he was a prophet. He himself never had a star. However, that particular 6-pointed star is called a hexagram.
Okay. And I've also heard it referred to as a double pyramid, one inverted, pointing towards the earth, and the other pointing towards the sky, depending on how you look at it, or what your school, I don't want to say school of thought, because that gives it some type of dignity, but whatever your misunderstanding may be.
You'll find if these people they have organizations. They're trying to control the world, just to say the least. They use their magic. I remember reading in.
You were talking about the genie. I don't want to get too far ahead. Yeah, I want to go away from it.
Right.
But I don't want to get too far ahead because it seems like you were building.
The point of mentioning the jinn and the genie is the fact that it in itself, that particular genie in the Arabian Nights had mentioned in this particular film, Arabian Nights, that he was locked in that bottle by the Prophet Suleiman. In this movie, he said it. I was locked in there, finally free, and I've been there for 2,000 years, locked in there by Solomon, King Solomon himself. Blah blah blah. And
just as a footnote. A jinn is a creation of Allah. That's mentioned in Quran as well, isn't
it? Yes, it is.
Okay.
Allah mentions there's a whole story.
More than one, actually.
There's an actual chapter called The Jinn. All right, and he mentions the story about the jinn and how they came and they used to hang out in the heavens. And spy on the sacred tablet, they're called the Lawh al-Mahfuz. They used to spy on it, and the soothsayers would call on these jinns for the jinns to come and tell them, and they still do, they still use them to tell them the secrets or the things, or what would be called the secrets of the unseen. Nobody knows the unseen except Allah. But what happens is the jinn, they spy on the Lawh al-Mahfuz. So the story, the jinn, the chapter called the jinn, speaks about how they were freely able to do it until the appearance of the Prophet, who then, when he came, there suddenly appeared some angels guarding the area where the Lawh al-Mahfuz is. Right? And so they found it a bit difficult and strange, and when they wanted to find out why suddenly these securities guards, if you will, had appeared, they went to the earth and looked around and found and heard the recitation of the Quran. This is paraphrasing the.
Of course, yeah.
And they went up.
I'm trying to find the chapter, the surah, or the chapter here.
It's in the 29th,
29.
the 29th juz, the 29th part of the Quran.
So go ahead.
So, it mentions that they were listening and heard the recitation and thought it was a very beautiful recitation. So those things that they heard in it, they submitted to it, all right, to say the least. What intrigued me is that they were listening. It says that they were listening to the Prophet pray out loud, reciting the Quran, and they would be all the way up next to his face, to listening to the Quran. It would be right in front of him, but he couldn't see them, So they thought that the recitation was beautiful, and they submitted to it. So that was what, and I mentioned that story about the jinn is because this is what the witches and the warlocks and the wizards and the Satanists and the Luciferians and the tricksters and whatever have you, they rely heavily on their communication with the jinn. Without them,
but not talking about the same ones who accepted Islam, though.
Only the evil jinns and
Okay.
the ones that want to trick mankind. So they communicate with the bad jinns, who are again known as shayateen, which is plural for shaitan, which is Satan in English or Arabic. All right. So these people, they use their means, and like I was saying, there is a man, Anton LaVey, who's he's known
and his
for
daughter and his son-in-law,
who are known for he particularly the founder of the Church of Satan, right?
In the United States,
originally,
because it was in existence before that.
Originally in San Francisco, then his daughter, his in-laws, and his lineage had moved to and taken over the church.
Okay.
After they had migrated over to New York, up in Hell's Kitchen.
That's an appropriate name.
Hell's Kitchen up there, and then you have down in Greenwich Village. Down there you have Father Demo Square, right off
I'm not
of Greenwich.
familiar with that one, but I know Greenwich Village was originally founded as a gathering point for people who were involved in Wicca.
Right.
Okay.
So
this is back in the 13th, 14th, 15th century, like this.
the busiest place in New York is the Village.
Excuse me, not 14th, but 15th century.
Yes.
Yeah.
The people who live down there, you have the gay community on one side of the Avenue of Americas, and they're closer in terms of their residence to that area, the Father Demon Square or Father Demo Square.
Okay.
Then you have the people who are on the other side going towards, off of 8th Street and
Then
stuff like that.
you have that building where John Lennon was killed also.
Right.
That's supposed to be
Off
a
of
gathering
Park
place for
Avenue, if
people
I'm not
involved in
mistaken.
that particular
Right.
mindset.
So these people, they live where they live. My point is, on the website, it was mentioning that Anton LaVey had cast a spell on the people of America back in the 1960s, the late 60s or
I
something.
remember reading something about this, but these spells only work on people who believe in them, who believe that there's a possibility for it.
It's whether you believe or not, you can have, because the Prophet ﷺ, there was a spell cast on him. And this is why the Suratul Falaq and Suratul
And
Nas
Surah Nas, yeah.
were revealed.
Okay, exactly.
you
Listen,
know.
let's stop there,
Okay.
okay? Because, we're running out of time, okay? And inshallah, we can continue the next episode, okay?
Inshallah.
Okay, so we stopped at Surah Falaq, Surah Nas, because that's what we're trying to show, is that if you practice Islam, all of these dark arts, okay, whether it's Satanism or witchcraft or Wicca or voodoo or Santeria or whatever it is you believe in, all right, can be, you're protected. You're protected from them, okay, if you let Islam work. Peace be unto you. May Allah bless all of you with sakina, tranquility. It's a part of Allah's mercy, and it's what makes Islam work.